chiefs, the Satu Dene Council. What was supposed to happen under the claim was SDC and SSI were supposed to submerge and subsume one another, but that didn't happen. They remain separate organizations to this day. Sometimes what's planned doesn't always work. So we work with that now. Now we have another whole set of engagement. We didn't get self-government in the claim, so we now have community-based self-government negotiations, and Delaunay, Northwest Territories, is the first one in the Satu region to finalize and implement their self-government. And we have representatives here. I see Leonard Kenny and Gina Dolphus, and I'm not sure who else is here, but those are a few of the people that are here. These are the people, the movers and shakers that are here to represent their people. We also have one thing that's really important for me, because we come from a hunting family and a trapping family, is Renewable Resource Council. The Renewable Resource Council, 27 years ago, were given a budget, were given a role. Well, let me tell you, that role has completely changed. They're involved in all the negotiations that deal with land and development, monitoring environmentally, undertaking discussions with companies that want to come in and do work on the land. But the money that they got has not changed. We fought so hard to get an extra $100,000. It was like giving them $1 million. They were so happy because they're so cash-strapped. So those of you that are working out there, remember that your Renewable Resource Council or your hunters and hunting and trapping groups really need your support when it comes to implementations. Territorial government always says, we already gave it the office. And the others, the federal government will really dig deep in and be resistant. But what you have to do is really push hard. Find innovative ways to help your people, because they feed our families. They are the ones that go out and look after our land. 27 years have gone by, and there have been many changes. Just look at technology, how different that is. How different that would have made our negotiations, how different that would have made our work and everything. But it is what it is, and what happened was many case precedents. I want to go back to my list. Many of the case precedents have changed the landscape for negotiation. Many of the players have changed. The government has looked at the inherent right and has an inherent right policy. I'm not saying that you necessarily buy into what the government has, but those are the people we deal with in trying to secure resources and in trying to move our agenda along for our people. I spent, since I left Parliament in 2006, I went back to my people, and I spent 9 years working on implementation. Immediately, I knew there was a problem. And I knew that when I was in Ottawa, I was dealing with the Nunavut claim, and I hired Justice Thomas Berger to look at implementation over in Nunavut as the Minister of State for Northern Development. And it's interesting, all these groups, and as is evident with almost every group here, the lack of resources is one of the biggest problems we have. And the provisions that we have, the fiscal policy arrangements, are outdated. The very Eurocentric. They're very Western kind of thinking. And there's a group in this room that has been working on that fiscal policy, and they've been doing a really good job. They've been pushing the envelope further than any group I've ever seen. And the government is willing to talk and willing to move on that. When it comes to the changes, the government sometimes wants to implement certain things that they want. In our area, one of the things that we had was we have a land and water board. It's one of the institutional bodies in our area. And the Land and Water Board is part of the Mackenzie Valley Resource Management Act. The Tlincho and our group and the Gwich'in have provisions. They're not exactly the same. But the Tlincho did take the government to court, and the government did settle. We are prepared to go to court as well, but the Tlincho, of course, in their efficient and effective way, did that and paved the way for us, because one of the things the government wanted to do was to take away the Land and Water Board that has our people on it, that includes traditional knowledge, and to turn it into a major super board. A super board where you're not guaranteed representation, a super board where the provisions of the smaller boards may not apply, like like traditional knowledge. So there are a lot of things that you're constantly seized with in dealing with what we deal with in implementation. In my 9 years, we restated the trust. Our trust became outdated and was going to disappear if we didn't restate it. So you have to be prepared over a period of time to look at your documents. Amendments also have to be made. How am I doing, Maltia? I have 3 minutes. I'm going to give you my best 3 minutes. Anyways, what I wanted to say was the world has changed significantly. We have these documents that are outdated, some of them. We also had to restate the trust where we keep our money. We had to restate our trusts. We did very well with our trust. And that money goes to the institutional bodies like the land corporations and the financial corporations and the district. All these boards have budgets attached to them. And in implementation, what we want to do is have each part, we're not just running to Ottawa having meetings, we're on the ground dealing with contaminants, we're on the ground dealing with institutions of government, we're on the ground dealing with all the companies that still want access to our land. If there's money to be made, you will always be popular. If you want money, and if you want access to the tools and the powers, it's a different story. The shoe's on the other foot. So let me tell you this. I have a great deal of confidence in our people. I know that we basically broke some trails. We basically aspired to achieve some goals, but there's lots to do yet. There's a lot for the young people out there. I was encouraged in those simulations to see 40-some-odd young people just get in there and start negotiating. The first day was a little tenuous, but the next day they were right in there. And David said something interesting. I just wanted to jump in there and say, no, don't do that, don't do that. That's wrong. He said the hardest thing to do is not to jump in and interfere, to respect what was going on. And, you know, sometimes we don't agree with each other as people, but we need to be respectful. That was the other thing he said that I took away from my time with them. I'm really honored to be here. I'm really happy that we've made tracks, that we've achieved some stuff, and it hasn't been easy. It's been difficult. We've had residential school, colonization, we've had discrimination. Everything we ever got out of government is something we fought for. Government never came and said, here, have this. If they did, it was, oh, we want this. So I just want to say to you, there are many battles and many trials to be fought, but you have to do what Ovid said once. Never leave a room that you go into as a leader with less hope than when you came in. I hope we're able to provide you with some bright lights for the future. Thank you.
John, you're good?
Can you hear me? Okay.
Perfect. I'm just going to pull it up.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you. First of all, I had a stroke about 2.5 years ago, so I apologize if I do not speak clearly. I'm going to talk about the Nunavut land claim settlement, a little report card, you might say. But don't worry, I'm going to do it in broad strokes. When we were negotiating the Nunavut claim back in the 70s and 80s, during these negotiations, we had certain expectations. We expected a new government that understood our language, our history, culture, values, and traditions. We expected better control over resource development and more direct benefits. We expected better and stronger environmental protection. We expected direct involvement in game management. We expected better and more infrastructure. We expected a made in Nunavut education system. What we got isn't all that, but mostly we got what we expected. The elected leaders of Nunavut, by and large, are Inuit. They know our history, language, values, culture, and traditions. The same cannot be said about the bureaucracy, because it was necessary to hire a large chunk of Nunavut civil service from the south. The language of government does not reflect the majority. We expect the Nunavut government and the Inuit organizations to work closely to make Inuktitut the working language of the territory. The government of Nunavut and the Inuit organizations up until now have not worked closely together. The recent signing of the Cont'd protocol between the Nunavut government and Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated should improve the working relationship. Through the Nunavut Impact Review Board, the Nunavut Water Board, and the Nunavut Planning Commission, we have better control over resource development. Through the Inuit Impact and Benefit Agreements, we have been able to negotiate more direct benefits from the resource development companies and the government. the Nunavut Wildlife Management Board has allowed Inuit direct involvement in the management of our game, wildlife. The Government of Canada, the Government of Nunavut, and the Nunavut Dungavik Incorporated recently signed an agreement in principle on devolution of powers from Ottawa to Nunavut. A final agreement and implementation will likely take some time. Although there has been a lot of construction over the past 20 years, Nunavut is still behind the rest of the country in much needed infrastructure. We still have a housing crisis. A major Nunavut education system still eludes us. A redrafted Education Act is now going through public hearings. Now, I want to spend a little bit of time to talk about why we chose a public government as opposed to Aboriginal self-government. Number one, we knew that a public government would have an easier time accessing federal funds as opposed to an ethnic government. We assumed that because Inuit are 85% of Nunavut's population, we would have effective control of Nunavut's agenda. We wanted Nunavut to be inclusive. The non-Inuit population, which is 15%, are largely our friends, co-workers, or family members, and we did not want to alienate them. They supported the creation of the new territory as well. And our legal advisors assured us that self-government was still an option in the future. Now, what difference has the Nunavut Land Claims Agreement made? There is more economic activity, more Inuit have government jobs, there are more jobs in the private sector, in small businesses, fisheries, mining, etc. And there is an emerging middle class. It's still very small, but it's emerging and will grow. Personally, I was worried about two things at the time of the signing of the Nunavut Land Claims Agreement. Would the Inuit feel welcome and happy to be part of Nunavut? And how would young people react to the new territory and the Land Claims Agreement? More Inuit students are graduating from high school. Many are going for higher education. When I was growing up in the high Arctic, nobody ever graduated from anything. The education system only went up to grade 6, and as a result, we had a large generation of young Inuit who did not have an adequate education. We have found in recent years that young people in Nunavut are enthusiastic about Nunavut and are happy generally with the Land Claims Agreement. The people of Inuit feel included and welcome in Nunavut. There is a deep general feeling of optimism about the future. It is the young Inuit women who are providing the leadership and the energy to move forward. As proof, this young lady sitting over on the table over there, her name is Hannah. She's my boss. In 1999, we were happy with our success in negotiating the most comprehensive land claims agreement in history and the creation of our own territory and government. But in the back of our mind, there was a bit of a doubt. Could we really do this? Could we run our own government? That doubt is no longer there. In 1999, one media pundit from the South predicted the Nunavut would collapse in 10 years because of corruption and management. After 20 years, none of that has happened. We can be very, very proud of the good job we have done so far. There is no question that things have improved since 1999, and we can expect better things in the future. But we still have a housing crisis. Our language faces an uncertain future. Climate change threatens our environment. Suicide is a sad reality in our communities. The high cost of living is choking our communities. What of the future? We expect a devolution of powers from the federal government. How long it will take is anyone's guess. But the reason signing of an agreement in principle is encouraging. We would like the Canadian government to revisit their extinguishment and surrender provisions in the land claims policy. The words extinguishment and surrender are words in the language of genocide, and Canada must move away from its colonial past. If the two sides are to respect each other, one side should not be asking for the other side to surrender, and it should not threaten to extinguish our identity, our rights to the land, and our traditions. This reconciliation depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you for those powerful words. That's good advice for Canada, I think. If you can help me thank these panelists for their sharing their knowledge and experience with us. Once again, thank you. I have to take a photo before. So that was amazing. Really love hearing the experiences of people who have been in the trenches for so long and have dedicated their lives for the betterment of our nations. A couple of items before we have our break. We're going to have a coffee break. We're supposed to break until 10:50. We're a little ahead of schedule, which is amazing. So you have more time to check out the exhibitors on the inside of this room. So we have exhibitors from the Modern Treaty Implementation Research Project at the back, Woodward and Company lawyers, Green Sun Rising, Know History, which provides a range of historical services to assist in the research, presentation, and documentation of Canada's history, Canadian Permafrost Association, Envision Insight Group, Inc., which is right there, Big River Analytics, which is a data company, Mapping the Way, Stories of Yukon Self-Government, Statistics Canada, and Engage North is a University of Alberta organization that is pan-disciplinary and operates with the ongoing support of our partners. There are artisans outside as well, and the coffee break is sponsored by Borden, Ladner, Gervais, Pape Salter, Talit, Aldridge and Rosling, Envision Insight Group, and Government of Canada. So we do have a break until 10:50. The youth will be having their youth caucus during the break, and we have a number of youth panelists, I guess, or they're facilitators that will be managing the discussion. So Kluani Adamek, Leslie Robinson, Jordan Peterson, and Bobby Clark. If you can join the youth down at this end of the room during the coffee break, that would be fantastic. So enjoy your networking, and we'll see you back in the room at 10:50.